Happy Tuesday, everyone. I hope everyone's morning has been awesome. We got a bunch of questions, and I hope this live stream goes much better than the one we did last Friday. We had a ton of buffering issues, so if we have any of those issues, let me know in the chat. Tuesday is a great day for me. It's the only day of the week that I kind of have off. I'm not in the high school several times a day, so I am going to have a great day today because after this, I got to go do some stuff with my son, and I'll be happy to go. So I hope if you have any questions, ask them in the chat here, and we'll get started. So we will okay, JC asks, do you continue to eat in a calorie surplus during the deload week? Yes, I probably would unless you're incredibly fat. Or don't eat in a calorie surplus, but yeah, you don't have to eat as much, but you still need to recover, and that's what that week is for. So yes, you don't just dump all your calories. All right, Space Battleship Alex. Hey Jim, thank you for doing these. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for showing up. What's a good pull movement besides rows for a young offensive lineman who has trouble with pull-ups, no lat machine available? All right, so what I would do is I would keep a couple different kinds of rows in, namely, obviously, dumbbell incline rows where your chest is supported. I would also teach him how to do a dumbbell bent over row, which you're building that tension. You probably have to lower the weight a little bit so he understands how to hold, build, and release tension. It's the single arm row. I'd also do curls, barbell curls. I can obviously do dumbbell curls. And if you can set it up, some kind of fat man row would work very well, or a rack pull up or chin up. The other thing I would do throughout the workout, and I don't know what you mean by trouble with pull-ups, if that means he can't do any. So that just depends on what that is. But I would find a way to get some kind of pull-up rep in between every single set of whatever he's doing for that day. And what that means, I don't know. If maybe he can do just a single pull-up, then we'll work with that. He can try to do a jumping pull-up where he jumps up to the bar and lowers himself slowly. Or obviously you can do band assisted pull-ups or something like that. So I wouldn't take them off all, take them out. But you don't need a ton of variety. So even if you just have single arm dumbbell rows and dumbbell incline rows, as well curls, I think curls are super important. I think you'd be good to go. The problem with like the fat man rows, at least in my estimation, is it's a real big ego hit for a lot of kids because you have to set up the bar much higher to account for their torso strength. And sometimes it's a little embarrassing, but you got to start where you have to start. And you got to kind of remove your ego. I'm talking to anyone that actually does this. Or if you're a coach, you got to get your kids to buy in and make sure they're doing it correctly. If you can figure out rack pull-ups, I know a lot of people have trouble doing those, not muscularly, like because they're weak, but they might have trouble understanding how the movement's supposed to feel. But I love that too. I do those all the time. Not all the time, but more frequently than I don't know, once or twice a month, which for me is quite a bit. So in all, you don't need to put your feet super high up, elevated. You can just put them on a bench, just a regular, 17 or 18 inches off the ground. So, but again, young athletes, they don't need a lot of variety because one of the things I have an issue with, especially when you're coaching large groups, is every time you introduce a brand new exercise to a large group, there's a lot of teaching and coaching that needs to go on. And all of a sudden you've got 10 minutes wasted when they could be doing something that they can do. So coach and teach a few really good movements that are super important to you and let them get used to it. So we don't do a lot of variety with the kids I work with. And that's one of the reasons why we never, I can go into this a little bit, but our in-season training is the most important part of the year as far as I'm concerned. So everything we do in the off-season is going to lead to let us train hard in the in-season. And one of the things we do is we don't do a lot of variety. That way, our kids can train very hard during the season and not get sore. So there you go. That's not my idea, by the way. That's been used forever. So it's just something I picked up and I think is a smart thing, which kind of goes against the grain of you have to switch your movements every 2 weeks. If you don't switch, your body needs to be confused. All that baloney. All right, Billy Breeder asks, are you familiar at all with Greg Walsh at Wolf Brigade Gym? He's very similar in your writing and speaking and overall training philosophy. I think I ordered a Mace from Wolf Brigade Gym, but I've never talked to him, so I'm not very familiar with, and that's not a knock on him. I'm just not familiar with him. I'm curious to get your ideas on the Mace and kettlebell with athletes. It depends on the athlete and not so much the sport, but the level of the athlete. But I think those things are fine for part of your assistance work. But again, you got to get your meat and potatoes in there. You got to get your jumping, your general strength training, hypertrophy training for athletes is super important, especially with young athletes. You got to put some muscle on that body, guys, and they need to be able to run and all that stuff. So while there's nothing wrong with that stuff, I certainly wouldn't put in, unless that's all I had access to, I would not base my entire program on that stuff. So, okay. And Billy Breeder asks again, are there any implements or methods you are interested in using with your athletes that you are currently vetting? I don't know how to answer that question because I'd have to really think about that. But generally speaking, every off season and every in season, I'm constantly learning new stuff, especially with regards to managing stress. That's the big thing, and understanding what the kids can and can't handle. And you have to understand that if they can handle, one team can handle X, Y, and Z, that doesn't mean the current crop of kids can handle the same thing. So it's really about managing stress, and especially for the varsity athletes, most of our players play both ways. So, but as far as like big things, not really. Essentially, I have beginner athletes or beginner lifters, and we don't need a ton of crazy stuff to get them strong and in shape. The most important thing to me is consistency and effort. And then within the weight room, we want to have good reps, and we want to do them with great effort. So really, the focus of this last off season, as far as our assistance work, was getting the kids to understand that they can push a set farther and harder with their. We used assistance work for doing this, but they can really push harder and farther than they thought possible. So sometimes that was the big method, so to speak, was effort. I think we leave a lot on the table, especially with young athletes who don't know where failure is, don't understand that it's okay to have your legs burning, your shoulders, arms, feel tired, and they need to get used to that. So generally speaking, every off season I have a focus, and I don't have that focus doesn't come into focus, so to speak, until a little bit into the training, and I realize where there's holes. And really a lot of the times too, because we have a new crop of kids every 4 years, you have to just reintroduce all that stuff again. So, it's not, I'm speaking at the SWIS conference on Friday, and I think a lot of the guys I'm speaking with in a panel, I'm part of a panel, work with much higher end athletes than I do. And it's going to be very interesting to see what they have answers for, and, what my answers are, since I work with a completely different breed of athletes, so to speak. So, but that's there's a market for that. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in training kids, training young athletes and stuff like that. So we'll see. But man, I feel like a fish out of water. I mean, I feel confident and I'm okay with what I do, but it's just very funny. Training Von Miller is very different than training a 14-year-old kid who can barely run. So boy, is Von Miller explosive. Whew. Okay, Frank Leone asks, hey, Jim. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Hey, Jim, I just asked you that in Insta. Okay, he asked on Instagram, did Frank Leone. Maybe you could give a bit more detailed here in the live stream. How would you structure your training if you're still into powerlifting at 40 plus years old? You mentioned your approach would be different. I would really love to know how you would structure it off season, meet prep, blocks, phases. Again, thanks for your work and time. Well, thank you, Frank. I did a whole article on this on the Jim Wendler private forum because it really needs to be written out so you can see it all. But basically, it comes down to doing the main lift, one main lift. So it would be bench, squat, deadlift, and press as your first movement. Your second movement would be a supplemental movement. So, for example, on bench press day, you could choose floor press or two board, and that would all be based on Prilipin's chart, and that would always be based on readiness and preparedness for that day, and then you would just adjust. So obviously, you would like to be able to hit, depends on the movement and your readiness for that day, but if you feel good, you can go up and do 3 to 10 lifts or so at 90% of that lift. You would just do a daily max. You wouldn't have to max out. Everyone who's remotely into powerlifting or anything lifting heavy knows exactly where they are. Once they get to about 80 to 85%, they can guess. And I would hover around there. And obviously, if you're not feeling good, you can go lower. And after that, I would have my assistance work. I would not probably do a supplemental day on the press day. I would probably just press more. So higher reps. On the squat day, I probably wouldn't follow Prilipin's chart. This is where it gets really confusing. I do a lot of power squats. The E-Elite FTS or EFS power squat machine, for me, was a huge game changer. I think it's important that lifters have what I call a dum-dum exercise for your legs, something that you can just kind of lock in and just smoke your legs without having to worry about technique and form all the time. And I think it's, regardless if you're a power lifter or not, I think strong legs and strong lungs are super important. So really it just comes down to main lift, the appropriate supplemental lift to raise that main lift or maintain it. If you're older, a lot of it is just maintenance work and making sure you're solid. Then obviously assistance work. As far as like days a week, I'd aim for 3 days a week on a 9-day rotation. But again, that may change based on how you feel. And my cat's right here, one of them. And the supplemental work or the assistance work, obviously for the deadlift and the squat would be pretty much the same. It would all be very, very hard low back work on the 45-degree back raise and a lot of abdominal work, weighted sit-ups, leg raises, ab wheel with the weight vest on. I think I've said this a million times, but I think people need to do much more abdominal low back work, especially if you're not suited for the main lifts. If you're kind of just an average guy, I think that's a huge hole in people's training is their midsection. I know for a while it was not cool to do ab and low back work. What's funny is when I started training, there was not much of an emphasis on ab and low back work, and then it morphed into that's all you have to do. And then we went through a cycle again, another 10 years or so, where all you have to do is squat and deadlift because Ed Cohn didn't do any direct ab work. So if Ed Cohn doesn't need to do it, then I don't need to do it, stuff like that. So it always kind of goes cyclical. Just like when I was a kid in the 80s, everyone had to eat a ton of carbs, and then Atkins came around, then no carbs. And then now it's a little bit of carbs, and I don't know what the current thing is. So, but anyway, really, again, just like working with athletes, when you get to a certain age, especially as you start to get much older, staying the same is like increasing. And so I would probably understand, usually if you're older too, you have some perspective on you don't need to be making linear progress every single week. And you kind of have to learn how to float, so to speak, and maintain a certain level of strength. And then as you get closer to a meet, maybe you start adding in a little bit of some singles and stuff. But one thing I think is important is to always add in some singles into your training. And when I say singles, that does not mean maxing out. I don't know why everyone thinks that. You can still do a single at a fairly light weight. And I still think singles, developing that skill mentally, the approach, the understanding of what power and speed is, the aggressiveness of a single, stuff like that. So, but that's pretty easy to do. You just work up and hit a quick single, and you can just base it all on bar speed and see how you feel that day. So it's, again, I'd have to, I did write this all out, but when you get older, you have to, it's going to be much different for you than it is for me. But thankfully, I don't have to deal with that. I just do a ton of the same crap all day, every day, and I feel great. So, but again, you get older, manage your stress, make sure you have a good aerobic system, make sure you're doing your stretching, mobility, or whatever makes you feel good. And don't let that, if you're an older lifter, rely on that base of training. And don't, remember, you're not 18. All right, you've already built that huge base of fitness and training. Maintain that, but you don't need to be doing the same stuff that you did when you're 18 or 25 years old than when you're 50 or 55 or 60. All right, you've earned some time to back off a little bit. All right, got a lot of questions here. Okay, here we go. Hopefully that answers your question. Bob Branksley asks, do you think the idea of frequently rotating main lift exercises to avoid mileage and injury is overrated for older lifters? I don't think it's overrated. I think the most important thing is how you do the lifts, not so much that the lift is different. As an example, let's say you do floor press. I'm just giving examples, and the bench press and the two-board floor press, bench press stuff, you're still pressing in basically the same angle. So I think one of the good things is that, avoid stagnation. I don't know. I mean, even if you're doing a box squat or a safety bar squat, you're still doing a squat. So I think if you want to rotate the main exercises, that's fine. I just don't know. I think more of the mileage and injuries comes from doing too much or doing too heavy, trying to relive the good old days. We just mentioned a little bit about the older lifters. So I'm not sure if that's really the main thing. It could be, especially if you've got an injury. Maybe you can't go so low on a squat, for example, and you have to do a lot of different high box squats or something like that. I know maybe it is overrated. So again, execution is much more important than the exercise itself. I'll put it that way. Andrew Ross says, hey, thanks, Jim. I'm currently doing the Widowmaker circuits from forever with jump rope in between exercises. I love doing that. I got that from Galvin Peratt. This was probably 30 years ago. He did something like that with his kids, with his athletes. Anyway, Andrew goes on and asks, what are your thoughts on doing circuits for an hour and cutting back or cutting out conditioning? I think you can do it. The problem is that it'll be incredibly stressful on your body. And I still think you need easy aerobic work, because doing circuits, especially if you're training with a barbell or some heavy weights, it's going to start kicking the shit out of you. And I think you're going to wear yourself out quite a bit. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean you can't push it. Doesn't mean you can't do it for a while, especially if you're relatively injury-free. But I don't think you can just do that forever. And that's one of the things I always see when people, and I've gotten this question for, I don't know, 30 years. They always want a forever template, something that they can do like, hey, this is all I want to do. This is the forever thing. Will this work forever? And the answer is it's not going to work forever. And there's no perfect workout. There's great workouts and it may work very well for you, but you have to understand that you're going to need a wide variety of things. It's like playing a sport when you're younger. You want to have a wide variety of movements and applications that you can draw upon. And, for example, you may have a forever workout and then all of a sudden you get married and have a kid. Well, that forever workout's you're not going to be able to fit that into your current schedule. So you're going to have to learn how to adjust. And even with the circuits, one day for a week or 2 weeks, maybe you're just tired and worn out. And all that's going to do, if you keep on doing those circuits for an hour, is just going to drive you deeper in the hole. So you need to be able to make adjustments on your training that day while looking at the big picture. And the big picture just isn't that day or that week or even that month. It's the global style of training. So while that sounds awesome, I think, it's like communism, right? It looks great on paper. I just don't know if you'll be able to maintain that for a long period of time and have great success. So, but be ready to change, man. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with scheduling, an hour-long circuit and then one day feeling like crap, and then you just put on a weight vest and take a stroll for an hour and a half or something. You're still getting something out of it, and it gives your body what it needs, mainly rest. So, Dennis Ellis, he says, you're going to need that Wendler correctional t-shirt to make a return. I'd love to see that shirt because I still see it with some of the kids at the school I work at London, wear some of the old t-shirts, and I love seeing them. He says, thanks for keeping on over the years. Well, Dennis, the good thing is I don't know what else to do. I kind of dug myself into a hole. So, but thank you, Dennis. We now on our store at jimwendler.com, we have some made-to-order shirts with some old designs. This is one of them, the London black shirts, Trample the Week. It's obviously a nod to the great Nebraska teams of the 90s. And I wanted to continue that tradition with our young kids and give them a link to the past, even though they probably don't care. But it makes me feel good, and that's what's most important is how I feel. But anyway, I appreciate it, Dennis. The Tier 0 operator, who has asked questions before because he's got an awesome handle, has said, what would you consider strong enough for police tactical or whatever, that's what he says, before they start maintaining strength and focusing more on different aspects of fitness, such as aerobic or anaerobic fitness? This is pretty hard to, I would have to work with the guy personally because there's going to be some huge differences from guy to guy. For example, if a guy has super long arms, I'm just giving an example, and we make the squat or super long arms or legs. Let's say he's got super long legs and we think, hey, you need to squat twice your body weight. I'm just throwing these numbers out. The problem with that is he's probably a better trap bar deadlifter or deadlifter than he is a squatter. So even if he's incredibly strong and able to do his job, his numbers might not reflect that. I hope I'm making sense. And same thing with the bench press. Maybe he's really good at pull-ups or something, and his bench press, due to his long arms or his frame or whatever, maybe he's got an injury. So generally speaking, so again, that's very hard for me to say. You'd kind of have to see how they actually do their job and their skill. But generally speaking, these are the things these are the bare minimums at London. And I'll run these over. And I got a lot of these from Dan John. Again, these are younger kids, so take that into account. But the bare minimum is bench their body weight, squat their body weight for 15 reps, trap bar twice their body weight, and do 10 pull-ups or chin-ups. I don't really care what grip they take. If they can do that, they'll be good to go. And we have a fitness test at London, and we don't do this all the time. We'll occasionally throw this in. but we're always working on raising just our general fitness because these are young kids who have very, very poor levels of fitness, even as athletes. Our fitness test, if a kid, a skill athlete, or a smaller, so to speak, lineman, so if they're not like 6'5", 300 pounds, which we don't get, but if they're just kind of a normal sized lineman, if they can do 15 squats, this is body weight, 15 squats, 10 push-ups, and 5 pull-ups every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, I think they're going to be fairly good, along with those other things. So, you know, I also think that you don't need to separate your training into, hey, we need to focus here or focus there, especially if the person's both out of shape and fairly weak. I think you can raise all the levels at the same time, you know, concurrently, as they call it. You would know that as conjugate training, the raising of several levels at the same time instead of blocking things off. But I think maybe those those things I listed for the high school athletes would probably work okay for the police or tactical. Now, obviously, you want to strive for higher, but at a certain point, for example, if you squat a good squat at twice your body weight, I don't know how much more you really need to do before it starts hitting it just pointless, and you end up spending way too much time training the squat than you do on other aspects. So I would say, for example, if the guy can trap bar 2.5 times their body weight or have a good squat of twice their body weight, I think their lower body strength would be good to go. And then I don't know about upper body stuff because there's so many issues with that. But I'd say, maybe a body weight for 10 reps on the bench press would be good. And obviously, you should be able to hit 20 pull-ups if you're police and tactical. I think that's got to be very easy. At least I would assume it would be. So, all right. I hope I answered your question, Tier 0 operator, without really answering it, because I don't have a ton of experience working with those guys. And obviously, I'm sure you know very, very much so that a lot of that has to do, how well you do your job is how well you're skilled you are to do your job. And obviously there is a tie into your physical preparedness and readiness and stuff like that. But training, that's those skills too. And a lot of that's just on the job training. You can, CQB all you want through a house. But when you actually have to kick in a real door and deal with people, that's a whole nother ballgame. So Tom Bryant asks, how do you program chin-ups if you can only do 4 max reps with body weight? Thanks for your help. What I would do is I would shoot for a certain amount of total reps every day and just do singles and doubles until you hit it. So let's say if you can only do 4 reps, so let's say every day you try to get 25 pull-ups for 1 month every single day, and you would do 25 sets of 1, or any way you break it up. I wouldn't ever do a max set, and I would just keep on raising that up probably every 4 to 6 weeks. So after you can do 50 a day for a month, maybe bump up to 55 or 60. And I would also, the one thing that I did all the time with myself and others is we would do a pull-up or chin-up between every single movement we do in the gym. So we would do a set of bench press, go do a single on the chin-up. We do a set of squats. We're doing a set on the chin-up. Deadlifts, anything. It doesn't matter, even with assistance work. And that has been incredibly useful to raise their chin-up strength, okay? And it takes time. That's the most important thing, is you have to be patient with that. You're going to have big jumps of strength level with that. But the other thing that you could do with the chin up and pull up is before each and every workout, you would do 10 minutes of 1 to 2 reps. So every minute on the minute, maybe there's our garbage man going by. Every minute or so, you do 1 or 2 reps and just try to get as many reps as you can in 10 minutes and just keep a log of it. You don't have to break that record every time, but, have a standard and try to build it up over, maybe 2 or 3 months. We did a lot of that here at London. We still do a lot of that at London. But for us, that was one of the big things we did to raise all our bigger kids' chin-ups and what our younger kids who were weaker, that's what we did. We used it as part of a warm-up, and we did those 3 days a week. All right. Oh, my son, Mason. So, Mason, can you comment on his playoff loss last night? He was playing Madden last night, and he's got his ass kicked. It wasn't really his ass kicked, but we had a good time with that. Yes, Mason, you should stop playing Madden and go play NCAA because that's way better. Way better. I can't stand Madden. I stink at that. All right. 369 Drip says, what do you mean by foundation training? Is this your warm-up, and where can I find it? Foundation training, just type it into YouTube. God, I can't remember the guy's name that does Eric Goodman, maybe, foundation training, and he has a 10 or 12 minute couple of them. The new foundation training, I think it's found on YouTube. And it's super easy to do. He just put it on, follow along with it, and you'll be good to go. I don't do that right now. I did it for probably 8 months, and it's really helped me out. And then I always have to switch kind of what I do. He asked then, is this my warm-up? Used to be, not anymore. And do you do anything else as a warm-up for your walrus workouts? Not really. Most of them are body weight or with 20 pounds. So once I ride the bike and do either foundation training or some kind of movement work, I'm ready to go. It's not like I'm lifting heavy weights with the walrus stuff, so I don't really need to warm up that much. It's not like I'm squatting 600 pounds. Zach Penny asked, do you think it's a good idea to alternate deadlifts from off the floor to off blocks? For younger guys, I don't think it matters that much. I think the problem with pulling off blocks is you get really good at pulling off blocks and it doesn't really translate to the deadlift. That's one of the big things we do with block pulls or rack pulls. They're super fun to do and you can load the hell out of them, but I don't know how much it transfers. For some it might. But I would try to always keep something on the floor to maintain that technique and that skill, and then using deadlifts off blocks or deficit pulls, stuff like that, as your supplemental. So the crazy thing about deficit pulls is when you stand on a 45-pound plate, I always was a little better at that, believe it or not, because I had more leg drive and my legs were much stronger. So, and those never really helped me at all, other than got me good at deficit deadlifts. So I think you can do it. I just think you should keep it on the floor as much as possible. That would be my recommendation. Daniel asks, how would you start training as a 35-year-old beginner if the main goal is to build as much muscle naturally as possible? Because I'm really skinny. Well, depends on what you can handle, but generally speaking, we would have a body weight style warm-up. Add in some, if you can, some kind of box jumps or something, kind of jumping if your body can handle that. And then the basic template would be one main lift a day, and then follow that up with 2 to 3 assistance exercises. And obviously, I'd probably aim for 3 days a week, maybe 4 if you can handle it, or if you're working with a trainer, if you can afford it. I would not be looking, especially if you're skinny, I would not be looking for a 6 or 8 week change. I wouldn't even looking for a 6-month change. I would really start looking in terms of years. So between maybe you start at 35 and maybe until you're 38, you really set that tone, because you don't want to cram your training and make up for lost time. It just doesn't work like that. So the big thing would be consistent. Be honest with your consistency. Be honest with what you can commit to. Mostly guys can commit to about 2 to 3, 4 days a week. I'd say 3. I wouldn't overload yourself too much and get too overzealous because a lot of times when you do that, you see this all the time at the beginning of the New Year's, people get overzealous, start training 38 days a week, and they're able to last for about 4 days, and then they burn themselves out. So 3 days a week, 1 main lift a day, 2 to 3 assistance exercises, and raising your assistance exercise too, I think is super important. With the main lifts, make sure you're learning how to do them before you really start loading them and being aggressive with them. So learn how to do that and then build some muscle with the assistance exercise. I would aim for full body workouts. For example, if your main lift is a squat, I would still do some kind of upper body pressing and upper body pulling on those days. So you're getting 3 days a week of a full body style workout. Again, learn the lifts, learn how to do them, and then learn how to give effort and be consistent with that effort. So, and obviously if you're really skinny, you're going to have to learn how to eat. Learning how to eat is hard to do because you kind of have to break a ton of habits. As an example, I'll just give you an example. If you're currently consuming 40 grams of protein a day and you hear like, listen, I need to consume 1 gram per lean body mass, and let's say, for example, that's 150 for you, it's going to be hard to go from 40 to 150 in a day and keep on doing that. So if you're currently consuming 40 grams of protein a day for a month, try to get up to 80 to 90. Make sure you can maintain that. And so you would slowly work your diet from where you are to where you want to be over a set period of time, just like you would with your lifting. So I wouldn't change how I would train you over how I would train a young kid that I work with, only that you may have some physical limitations due to you being older. So there's no secrets to this stuff, guys. So Joe Morden asks, hey, did the transfer portal and NIL deals ruin college football? Not at all. There's always going to be growing pains with this stuff. And I think NIL is perfect for the college athlete. They're making billions and billions of dollars for a lot of people that don't put their life and their health on the line. They're not taking money out of the pocket of any other athlete. For example, when I was in school, they always thought about paying some certain players out of the school's budget. And they're not doing that. Outside people are doing that. And I also believe, listen, if I worked at IBM or AT&T and someone wanted to pay me money to advertise for a yogurt company, there's no limits on what I can do. And I think these kids should make as much money as possible. And I think there's always going to be some, we're going to have to figure out where we're going to go, how we're going to change some of these things eventually. But I think it's important that kids who are 18 years old aren't bound to a commitment they made when they were 17 or 18 years old to go to one school, and all of a sudden they realize they made a mistake. So I don't think it ruined it. It just changed it. And you're just going to have to change with the times. I mean, I think sometimes that's tough for people to do. I know it's tough for me to watch some football games because the way that they're played, but I don't have a choice in that. And that's one of the reasons, even with like the strength training stuff that I see being done, I don't like it for high school and college football players. And so instead of complaining about it, I did something about it. So that was kind of my answer of dealing with some of the changes, was I was going to be part of the answer, so to speak, and not just complain about it. So I got no problems with people making money. It's ridiculous. How would you modify walrus workouts if my main goal is maximum muscle in my legs? I have a pancake bum and chicken legs. I work as a field staff. No gym setup, just weight vest, dumbbells, and hotel rooms. I don't know if I'd modify much. You're already doing a ton of squat work. And if you got a weight vest and you got dumbbells, you can always do dumbbell squats. You can do tons of lunges as part of your workout. If you have stairs in your hotel, I do this when I'm on vacation. I climb up and down the stairs with my weight vest on. Last spring break, I think I climbed 1,000 stories in 6 days. I think that was my goal, and I did it. I did every day. Go climb up the fire, whatever, the fire stairs or whatever you call it. And I did that. I skipped every other step. So the only, the thing is it's you're not going to get Tom Platt's legs putting on a weight vest and doing squats unless you're genetically predisposed for that stuff. But you can improve. And I think as long as you're consistent and you push yourself, I think you're going to be okay. But I would, make sure you throw in some lunges and make sure you have at least a couple workouts a week, maybe separate from your main workouts if you can, of climbing up and down the stairs. For me, the climbing up and down the stadium steps with a heavy weight vest, or climbing up and down a hill, horrible on your legs in a good way, horrible. So I would add in that stuff, man, and just be consistent. And man, just don't worry about, I know I say this, but just worry about getting in great shape and being awesome, and let your body be what it is. Be okay with that, man. Be okay with being awesome with who you are. Don't try to look like someone else. I had to deal with that shit when I was a high school and college football player. I did a whole video on this, the biggest mistake I made. Don't worry about what other guys look like or what anyone else looks like. Just be the best version of you can be, and be awesome at that, and just be happy with that. Once you do that, man, the whole world starts to open up, and I think it's super important. Zach says, hey, what do you think about incorporating Prilipin's chart into 5-3-1, dropping down to first last to accumulate at least 18 total strength reps? You can do that. That's fine. There's always ways of playing with that stuff. The problem that I have is, at least I started thinking about doing that with some of the high school kids, and there was an immediate drop off in some of the strength because they didn't know how to push sets. I think Prilipin's chart is awesome for more advanced lifters who know how to push a barbell hard, know how to get, know what it's like to do 3 to 5 reps at 75% and know how to actually own every rep. Young kids don't know how to do that. So while on paper it might look good, I think there needs to be a growing process for a lifter, and he needs to learn how to push sets. And the minute we stopped pushing sets, we got weaker, and the kids were less motivated in the gym. And I can tell you this, our days, Mondays and Fridays, so on Mondays we squat, on Fridays we trap bar in the off season. The days when we do that main lift, man, that room is on fire. And everyone is training hard. Everyone's got a goal. It's loud, not just music loud. I don't like loud music when I'm coaching, but the amount of effort and just intensity, so to speak, is off the chart. And I think that does wonders for the kids because they learn how to bust through their own physical limitations and mental limitations. And the one thing I always tell the kids, I will never ask them to perform a weight or a set that I know that they can't handle. And so far, I've never, I've taken kids aside and told them, like, listen, I know you can do 12 reps here. And they look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, dude, do you really think I'd let you do something that I know you can't do? And I always see the look of like, oh yeah, because I'm super conservative with the kids. And so while Prilipin's chart is awesome for some, I think others, I don't think it really has a role just yet. I think you need to earn the role to use Prilipin's chart. Bob asks, high intensity, low volume top set back off to failure seems to be all the rage this year. I did not know that. Do you think this method is unsustainable or more injurious for the average Joe? High intensity, low volume, so like high intensity training. I don't think it's always sustainable. For example, when we push our final sets at London, or even when I did, when I was lifting, I always left a couple reps in the tank, or I'd always have a goal. And once I hit that goal, I would, and my goals were fairly conservative generally. But I never really went to failure on the main lifts, especially the squat and the deadlift. Doesn't mean I never did. If I did go to failure, especially on the squat, I don't think I can probably count the number of times I failed on a squat on one hand in my entire life. So I don't think it's sustainable. I think you need to be back off, and I think more people would be better suited to doing stuff to failure with lifts that, quote, don't matter, stuff you can easily recover from, and that is basically assistance work. So, and again, the other thing you have to understand is when you're doing high intensity, low volume work, like really pushing sets, you have to kind of earn a base of strength and fitness to get you there, so that your technique doesn't suffer. You know, I've seen plenty of people fight through a set with some of the worst form you've ever seen, where in a lifter who knows exactly what's going on, they'll just rack the bar right away and understand, hey, that set's over because my form has gone to shit. So, and that only comes with either someone coaching you on every rep and seeing what they see, or with you experiencing a lot of screw ups and injuries and stuff like that. So it all depends. You know, the one thing I always tell people about training is, you know, I can write down the exact workout that I give the kids, or what we did with the kids, but it's the most important thing is not the program. It's the person performing the program, the athlete or the lifter, and the person administering the program, the coach or the trainer. That is far more important than the actual sets and reps. Far more important. So, but that's now all the rage, huh? Good times. Lucas Carr said, I started your program 16 months ago. My 2 main lifts a day, alternating for 4 days a week. I raised most of my maxes over 100 pounds. Can you suggest new program for better results? I don't know if that's a joke or not. You're getting stronger, man, and you got really good results. So don't look a gift horse in the mouth, my friend. If what you're doing is working, milk it for everything it's worth. How necessary, this is Andres asking, how necessary is it to do aerobic training right after the lifting portion of the workout, as opposed to doing lifting in the morning and then aerobics in the afternoon? I don't think it's remotely necessary. I think that's ridiculous. I think you do what you can based on what your schedule is. You have to understand a lot of these things that people say are necessary or whatever. I don't know. I don't know where they get up this shit, or if they have no life. Like sometimes you got to break your training up a little bit. You got a weird schedule. Like people work jobs, people have families, people got stuff to do. So I don't think it's remotely necessary at all. I think the most important thing is that you're consistent in what you do, and you fit it within your schedule, and you make it work for you. So if you can only do one of those things, you're going to be better off than if you analyze and get paralyzed. So there you go. Harold asks, do you need a certain 1RM to do the program? My wife started lifting and she's currently doing starting strength. Not at all. My wife would probably be better suited to answer this question since she works with the junior high kids. But I think they have to earn certain lifts, and I don't know what they are. I think maybe they have to deadlift 95 for 10. So we don't base anything on a 1 rep max. You can't. Really. It's just hard to do. I think trap bar 95 for 10, bench 65 for 10, and I guess squat 95 for 10. And then so she has a separate kind of simple program. She works with each kid individually and has their weights listed for what they need to do that day. And then once they get to those things, we start working with working within the 5-3-1 program. So, but no, you don't need a certain 1RM. Corey asks or says, coffee, bacon, eggs. Wendler, this is a good morning. Well, I appreciate it. I had steak and eggs this morning, very small amounts of each. I already trained. I already feel good. Helmet, nice to see you, Helmet. He asked, what is my favorite Misfits album and song and why? Favorite Misfits album is the Earth AD Wolf's Blood. I love that. I think it's absolutely ripping. I love the songs, but I also enjoy, they had those compilation albums, compilation 1 and compilation 2. I love the Misfits. I grew up on the Misfits. I can probably sing every single song in the Misfits. And I think they're incredibly fun. And I think that Earth AD album is absolutely ripping, especially when you consider, I think that came out in 1983. And like you hear Death Comes Ripping, that the drums on there, everything is just amazing. But I don't know if I have a favorite song. I don't. I just love listening to Misfits. I probably listen to Misfits, I don't know, probably more than any other band when I'm training. I just love them. And I love them for road trips because you can sing along and it keeps you awake. Steven asks, are there any negatives of using front squats instead of back squats? No, not at all. The only thing I would caution with front squats is I think you need to cap your top set a little bit because of the upper back and lat fatigue. And you have a tendency to fall forward and kind of do some stupid shit. So I would probably find a cap on your final sets, but I think you're good to go. As long as you're doing some kind of squat, I think you're good to go. So I don't really care about that stuff. Andrew says, hey, Jim, my son is a high school freshman. He plays center and he uses 5-3-1 on his week 3 this Sunday. He had, 260 for 7. Thank you. Well, that's awesome, Andrew. Keep him going. Remember, he's a freshman. He's got 3 years to get better. Don't try to make him super strong in 6 weeks. Let him use the 3-year plan. All of our kids here at London are at least on a 5-year plan. And when you do that, you can be much more patient and the strength can get much better and it can be sustainable. That's the most important thing. It's sustainable. Jesse, good to see you, Jesse. Any thoughts doing 5-3-1 t-shirts and camo? I think we did some of those. I think the issue we had with some of that is the t-shirts were, the fabric was really horrible. So maybe if we found a brand that was super soft and up to our standards, I think we would do it. But man, that's a lot of camo to look at though. I have obviously some hats with some camo on there and that's about all I can handle. But I'll ask my wife about that. And she does all that stuff. Kyle says, would you change anything about your letter to my younger self from a few years ago? I would probably have to look over that. I'm sure it would change. 100% would change. I don't know what I would do, though, because I would have to look at it. But just working with the kids, every year I change. But the same basic ideas remain. You have to understand that all the different variations of training and stuff like that, they're all based on the same principles. So, but obviously knowing what I know now over the past, 2 years, 3 years, 5, I've been at London for 8 years. Of course, I'd probably change some stuff. But the bottom line is, I think the most important thing, especially for a high school kid or a junior high kid, is looking at the big picture and not trying to add a ton of weight all the time, which I know is hard because young athletes want to max out all the time and stuff like that. I know I never cared about maxing out, but I cared about pushing weights and pushing sets and pushing for PRs. That was super important to me. I probably would have been a little smarter about that looking back now. And I would probably make sure I had tremendous running fitness, but I would probably improve my upper body quite a bit. That'd probably be the only thing I really did wrong. So if I didn't have a ton of dips and push-ups, chin-ups, pull-ups, stuff like that, I'd probably add that in. That was my upper body stinks. So Alistair says, hey, good morning, Jim. Hello. That time, I got to get going here. Why does the trap bar deadlift get so much hate? I didn't know it did, but I guess that's true. I guess I can see that. The only reason why is because it's not a competition lift. So, and it's, a alternative to the deadlift. So I'm sure that's the reason why. There's nothing wrong with it. You're still picking a weight off the floor. And I always say, if you trap bar deadlifted 900 pounds, people wouldn't call you weak. So, but I'm not sure. I'm sure that's the reason why, because it's not part of the part of the history, so to speak, of lifting. The straight bar has always been that. Ryan says, do you still do the Agile 8? I don't know. If not, is there any other mobility warm-ups you do now? I always ride the bike as a warm-up, the Airdyne bike, and then I have the foundation training I would do, some basic yoga stuff I do that's tailored to me. But because my training's changed, my warm-ups have changed. I don't need to do all the crazy warm-ups to get ready to squat or deadlift or bench press and stuff like that. But generally speaking, if I was on my own training, I would start compiling different warm-ups that people have done. And but right now, what I do is probably not applicable to you. But the one thing we do at our high school is on days we squat and deadlift, we will generally do push-ups and chin-ups for 10 minutes or so and just do as many as we can. On the days we bench press, we will do squats, bodyweight squats and pull-ups and chin-ups for, again, 10 minutes or so, and just start pounding the shit out of that. And you can obviously add in different movements there, but we really pound the instead of just doing a warm-up, we're actually training. Our kids don't need a crazy mobility and warm-ups. They're 14, 15, 16 years old. They have horrible fitness levels, and then you get stronger at the basics. So that's what we did. And when we did that, now we've added real training time instead of doing all kinds of ridiculous prep work, which these kids don't need because they don't have anything to prep. So take that for what you take that how you want to take that. But there's a difference between what you see on social media and what you see athletes doing that are professionals and what most people should do. It's a huge chasm between real training and social media training. Okay. Any thoughts on scaling assistance work to a more Menser Yates DC style while still following the 5-3-1 format for the main lifts? Yes, there's a whole article I did on that, a whole training thing I did on. If you want to do that, go ahead and give it a shot. Nothing wrong with that. Again, I don't know how sustainable it is over a long period of time. Hey, I'm going to start going through as fast as I can. Hey, Jim, can you talk about the training you did with Ethan? Ethan, I know it's written on the form, would be interesting to hear more. I don't know who Ethan is, so I'm not sure what that means. So I think that's Dan Eagle. Besides reverse hypers, what are your favorite ways to strengthen the lower back? The best way by far is the back raise or 45-degree back raise. I think to me are the best things. I think well over the reverse hyper, at least for me. That was a giant thing. And I always say that the 45-degree back raise done with a barbell on your back is doing a good morning without the politics, meaning you can't really cheat at that. You don't really have to load it terribly heavy to get a lot out of it. And I think it's much safer. So by far, that's the best thing I've ever done. So, hey, Jim, I just wanted to show you gratitude for your program. I bought every single one of your books and even had you and Juliet autograph every one of them. I don't remember that, but that's awesome. Zach, let's see here. We're going to start going through it. Did you struggle with any specific nagging pains or injuries while you were training for your 1,000-pound squat? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sciatica, bulge discs, a lot of shoulder stuff, tore my pec, tore my lat, all that stuff. It's just part of the gig. If you want to lift big weights, man, especially if you're well beyond your limits, you're always going to have a bunch of stuff. I've probably torn both my lats twice, torn my pecs a million times, my shoulders hurt, and just the bulging discs and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're always going to have that stuff. The amazing thing, though, is when you're super hyper-focused on stuff, the pains aren't that bad. And I always liken it to the more we win at London, the more games we win, the less guys get hurt. That's just the way it goes. So it's very similar to that, where the stronger you get and the more focused and more driven you are, the nagging injuries and pains didn't really bother me at all. Today, they would bother me if I had those same issues, and I do have some of those same issues, but you're able to work through a lot of that stuff just mentally because you care. Okay. Ooh. All right. So, Corey says, well said on the Misfits. I overdosed on them. And Typo. Oh, I was laughing about the Typo song. Oh, my God. Black #1. When Peter Steele says you can't go out because your roots are showing, dying black. I think that's the best thing about Typo Negative is they had a huge following, obviously, in the youth or in the goth world. And Peter Steele always had his tongue in cheek when he wrote lyrics and played. And I love that about them. They never took themselves too seriously, but they were not a joke band at all. I don't like joke bands. If you're a joke band, I don't know. It just, even SOD, I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the Stormtroopers of Death. They played like they weren't a joke band. I mean, that, to me, when I first heard Stormtroopers of Death, I was in, what did that come out, 85 or 86? So I remember my buddy Joel got it. And I remember hearing the bass on that album. Dan Lilker's bass was just, holy cow, was that awesome. And to me, that's what a bass should sound like. So anyway, but yes, Misfits and Typo. I'm not a huge Typo fan. I think I have a couple of their albums, but I certainly love Peter Steele. And it's a shame that he passed away. Okay, we got just a couple more, guys. It's 11 o'clock. Someone asked, what's my opinion of the barbell prescription? It's for older lifters in their 60s. I am not familiar with that. I've never read it. I'm not even sure what that is. But that, again, don't take that as because I don't know it. There's so much stuff out there. Anything to get older lifters or older people lifting to improve their strength, their balance, hypertrophy, all that stuff. And as long as it's done in a controlled and smart way, man, I'm 100% for it. Both my parents are in their 70s. They just biked. Every year they go do a huge bike trip through Europe, go through a number of cities, 60, 70, 80 miles a day, and they still lift 3 to 4 days a week. And and obviously they've had their injuries and all that other stuff, but they are persistent and consistent, and it's amazing what happens when you do that. So, Corey asks, hey, how long do you give a program before realizing it isn't working, or if you are just in the thick of adjusting to it? That's going to be different for everyone. Generally speaking, you can kind of figure that out after a week. But you have to understand that when I work with kids or do my own training and stuff like that, I always have maybe a program or plan. And then every single day that we train, I'm adjusting based on what I see. So just because the workout says we're doing this, 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 and this, I'm not going to force that square peg in the round hole if I don't see what I want to see. So I hope I'm making sense. So I'm not just smashing shit in just because it's on the paper. I'm always looking and adjusting for readiness and performance every day. And I've done it ever since I've been at London. And I've done it ever since I really started training very seriously, probably since high school. I always have a plan, but man, if you can't do it and it's not working the way you want that day, then you just back off and adjust. So I would probably say it just depends on what your experience is and if you're good at reading that experience. But I think you should have a pretty good handle after maybe 2 weeks. And again, it also has to do with what your current state of fitness, for example, is. If your current state of fitness is horrid, then there's going to be a lot of time where you're going to be feeling like crap. That's just the way it goes. If you're already a fairly well-conditioned athlete and kind of know what you're looking for, you should know fairly quickly. So It's hard for me to answer that question, Corey, because I'm always in a state of adjusting things no matter what is on the table. As an example, kids walked up to the weight room yesterday, and I knew exactly what we had planned wasn't going to happen. I knew right away. You can just tell by how the kids are walking. You can tell by how they're talking to each other. So we have to adjust. And so I've adjusted mid-workout. Everything has to be based on what the kids can handle and what you can handle. So, so Dan, who asked about Ethan, was talking about Elijah. We don't have enough time to talk about that, and I'd have to kind of go through the notes. But Elijah was a young athlete that was at London for a number of years, and prior to his first year of college, he trained in my garage, and we did some different things with him. Namely, we did a version of the Nebraska metabolic training for, I think, 6 weeks or so. But we had to massively adjust to it. And again, just like I had mentioned to Corey, I had a general plan every day, but it changed greatly. I didn't, again, just pound him into the ground because this is what we had planned. So we always adjusted stuff. We kind of came up, at least I did, after the 6 weeks with a plan that I think will work. So if he chooses to train here next summer, we will probably go through about 4 weeks of that and then go from there. So, but we don't have enough time. But if someone brings it up, I can, if I remember. I'd have to get all my notes out, though. I don't even know where they are. I got piles of papers in my weight room with notes on them. Big box of crap. God. All right. Kimball Jensen says, hey, when you're with the kids in the weight room, do you open or close with words of encouragement or emphasis? Yes. If so, what kinds of things are you trying to instill in them? I mean, it just depends on day to day. But some of the things we emphasize all the time is making great decisions outside of the weight room. Since I'm only with them a little bit of time, we focus a lot on giving great effort and doing things correctly. That's a huge deal in our weight room. Doing things the right way. The simplest way is when we ask you to put your hand behind the line. That doesn't mean you put anything on the line. It means you put your hand behind the line. And I will not start any group unless everything's perfect. Reps are done with the utmost care, with the utmost effort, stuff like that. And the one thing I always tell the kids, I don't care if we win or lose. I only care that you play the game correctly and give great and insane effort and you play it violently. And generally speaking, if you do those things and train consistently, you're probably going to win more games than you lose. But there's always little things I come up with, but those are the base things and one of the things I tell the kids is the more average you are, the more important this training is going to be. And that doesn't assure you anything in the world of sports, but it will assure that you're giving yourself a chance to succeed. So, and, I'm a living proof of an average kid, making good, so to speak, by pushing his body physically and pushing myself mentally. I obviously achieved way more than I probably should have. So anyway, all right. Do we have any more questions here? But yeah, Kimball, I don't actually plan anything I say to the kids. It's more off the cuff stuff. But again, effort, consistency, attitude. And the one thing, I thought about this the other day. I tell the kids, listen, first of all, you need to participate in your own success. I can't lift the weights for you. I can't push you every single day. There's one of me and there's 60 of them. There has to be some responsibility put on the kid for pushing themselves. I can't watch every single set like I'm training a kid. So they have to participate in their greatness. So I think that's a huge thing with kids. That they do have control. They do have some kind of power over how good they are. And again, you might be All-American or you might just be a contributor, but you should always be able to believe in yourself. That's one thing too, is when you believe in yourself, that's the most important thing. I know it sounds trite and stupid, but If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So, all right, I'm going to ask one more question here, and then we will get going. He says, JC says, do you change accessory exercises when going from a leader to an anchor template, or do you just increase the volume of the exercises? You can do either. Like when we choose exercises, we just have a template and you just choose whatever one you want and then work around that. So I don't really say I'm going to just do dumbbell bench. We have, you can do any kind, you can do dips, push-ups, any kind of dumbbell pressing work. You can do your tricep push downs if you're feeling tired. So, you can change exercises however you want. I don't think it matters one bit. What matters is that you're consistent with it and willing to change when things are necessary. So, all right, we are getting going here. It is Tuesday. I would like to thank everyone for showing up. Please visit jimwendler.com. We have a bunch of new shirts on there. And if you're interested in more specific stuff, you can join the Jim Wendler Forum. It is it is everything I wanted in a forum and more. We have a ton of great dudes on that forum, and everyone's helping out. There's no bullshit political stuff. We wiped all that. No one ever posts on that stuff. So if you're just interested in training, getting ideas from a lot of older guys and coaches and stuff like that who work with athletes, or just normal everyday dudes, who is the majority of the people on there who just want to get better, please feel free to join up. It is an awesome thing. Again, we try to do the live streams every Friday at 10 a.m. But again, I will be at the SWIS conference here in Ohio, speaking as part of a panel. And actually, I think it's at 10 a.m. On the SWIS thing. So obviously I won't be able to do this. So, but thank you everyone for showing up. I appreciate everyone's comments and questions, because that's what keeps this thing going. It's not me. I could talk all day on this, but if I don't have any kind of material, I suck. I'll just talk about Slayer and why everyone sucks but Slayer. And then I get mad because I forgot about the Misfits. And then I'm like, Samian's good too. Anyway, thank you guys very much. I hope everyone has a great week. Challenge yourself, guys, training-wise, mentally-wise. Be consistent and control what you can control and let everything else go. All right? Keep your life in order. Love your kids. You got kids, man. Love them to death. They're the greatest things in the world. So anyway, I appreciate everyone. Love you guys. Have a great day. Do your squats, your push-ups, chin-ups, and if you can, do dips, because, man, do I miss dips.